Alright, okay, hello, my name is Ashraf, so I'm going to teach you guys on the chemistry for SPM. Alright, so before I proceed, we're going to look at the learning objective for today, which is I'm going to do a little bit of analysis for paper 1 and paper 2 for previous SPM, which is 2021 and also 2022, and I'm gonna pick one question from Form 4 and one question from Form 5, which is, I think, a quite famous question. Alright, so without further ado, we go for the first part, which is the analysis for paper 1. Okay, so if you can see on the screen right now, this is the distribution according to the form, which is we have Form 4 and Form 5 according to the years also, this one 2021 and also 2022, right? So if you see just like this, because you cannot analyze because it's too much, right? So we proceed with the distribution according to the chapter. So what we can see from this distribution for 2021, you can see that here, okay, there is a total of 20 questions coming from a Form 4 and then 17 questions coming from a Form 5. Alright, but for 2022, it is 19 questions coming from Form 4 and 21 questions coming from a Form 5. So we only have 2 years to do analysis, which is I cannot predict the trend yet because it's only 2 years, right? So from what we can see here, the only thing that I can highlight is for Form 4, the famous chapter is actually chapter 3 and also chapter 6, which is your calculation, your chemical formula, your balancing the equation, and also your acid base is a quite famous topic that could be asked in your SPM. And also for the Form 5, this one, okay, chapter 1 is considered as a most famous question that could be asked because you only have less chapter in Form 5. So now we look at the 2022, same thing also. Okay, if you can see from here, chapter 3 Form 4 and also chapter 6 Form 4 is the most asked question for last year SPM, and the same thing happened for chapter 1 Form 5, which is your redox. Okay, alright, so let's proceed with the paper 2 analysis. Okay, so this is the distribution according to the question. Alright, so I want to highlight the important part for your essay part. Now look at the section C. Okay, and if we can see that question 11 for previous years, for previous 2 years, both of the topic are asked for, coming from a Form 5 syllabus, which is 2021 is coming from redox chapter 1, and last year it's coming for your carbon compound chapter 2. Okay, so there is no more there is not yet a chapter from a Form 4 which I assuming this year could be asked about, maybe SEN base from Form 4. Okay, alright, so for the distribution on paper 2 also the same things. Okay, you can see for 2021 a lot of questions coming from Form 4, and for 2022 a lot of questions coming from Form 5. So the trend is keep on like Form 4, Form 5. So I'm not sure about this year. Okay, alright, so I'm gonna proceed with the most famous chapter for your Form 4, which is your chapter 6. Okay, I'm gonna pick one subtopic in the chapter 6, which is your solubility of salt. Okay, solubility of salt, there is a lot of salt that you need to memorize. So I'm gonna share with you on the 4 rules that we can use to know which salt soluble in water, which salt not soluble in the water. Okay, now look on the first rules, which is here, SNAP. Okay, alright, so when I say snap, right, you imagine you have like some kind of magic power. You snap, everything gone, everything gone. Okay, so this one snap is for a soluble salt. Why I said soluble salt? Because you snap, that salt will gone, hilang. Okay, meaning it's gonna dissolve in the water. So the first rule are talking about a soluble salt. Alright, so if your salt contain a sodium, a nitrate, ammonium, and also a potassium, it's gonna be a soluble salt. As example, okay, I will have NaCl. Okay, NaCl. So in this NaCl, sodium chloride, you have a sodium. Okay, if you see there is a sodium in the salt, straight away we know that this salt is a soluble salt. Okay, alright. Now we look at the next. Rules. Okay, so how to pronounce this one? Subakap. Okay, what is Su? Su is a sulfate. Okay, Su is stand for a sulfate salt. Okay, so barium sulfate, Ba is for barium, Ca is for a calcium, and Pb is for your lead lah. Okay, so barium sulfate, calcium sulfate, and lead sulfate, this one is for insoluble salt. Okay, let's say you will have other salt that also a sulfate salt, but none of these three, meaning that that salt is your soluble salt. Okay, I show you a example. Let's say I will have okay, right. Now look here. We have a magnesium and we have a sulfate. Okay, so this is a sulfate salt. But does magnesium is in these three type of salt? No, right? Okay, so meaning that even though this is a sulfate salt, but this one contain magnesium, which is none of these three things. So meaning that magnesium sulfate is a soluble salt. Okay, alright. So, okay, now let's proceed with the third rules, which is a co-pacmer. Okay, I call this one as co-pacmer, even though you have PB there, but then it's okay lah. Okay, so now look here. Alright, so what does CO here stand for? Okay, co meanings, this one are talking about chloride. Okay, but it doesn't limit it to chloride only. It's for halide salt. Okay, when I say halide, it is a group 17 salt. Okay, example is iodide, bromide. Okay, alright. So now I have co-pacmer, which is I have lead, silver, and also mercury. Alright, so these three salt is also fall under a insoluble salt, which is I'm not going to dilute in the water lah. Okay, alright. So let's say I have I took Mg also, magnesium also. Okay, I have magnesium chloride. Okay, so this one is a chloride salt. Okay, chloride salt. But then the partner, the cation, is a magnesium. So magnesium is not belong to these three categories. Correct or not? So meaning that magnesium is soluble. Why soluble? Because this one, these three things here is for insoluble salt. Okay, if magnesium doesn't belong there, meaning it's not. The rules doesn't apply to the magnesium lah. Okay. Alright. For the next rules, I would have a COH. COH. I call this as a COH. Okay. So what is C? C is a carbonate, O is oxide, and H is for the hydroxide. Okay. carbonate salt, oxide salt, and hydroxide. Okay, but this rule, okay, COH is insoluble salt. But then you must look at the highlight. You must look at the But then you must look at the highlighted point here. This one. Okay, except first rule and calcium oxide, calcium hydroxide, and also barium hydroxide. Okay, as I mentioned just now, COH is insoluble salt. But there is exception for this rule, okay, which is look at the first rule. What is your first rule? This one, your SNAP. Okay, so if your carbonate contain one of the elements that from a SNAP, which is example, ammonium. Okay, so if you have a ammonium carbonate, okay, ammonium is coming from the first rule, okay, and the carbonate is your fourth rule. So as I mentioned, COH is insoluble salt, correct or not? But then you have ammonium, so this one is a soluble salt. Okay, another example is that, let's say I have aluminium oxide. Example, I have a aluminium oxide. Okay, so aluminium oxide is an oxide salt, okay, which is, I told just now, oxide is insoluble salt. But then, okay, you need to look at the first rule, and also CaO, CaOH2, and also BaOH2 is not gonna apply this rule. Okay, so let's say I have aluminium oxide. Now we look at the first rule. Do we have aluminium in the first rule? No, we don't have aluminium in the first rule. So what does it mean? Meaning that aluminium oxide is insoluble salt. Okay, alright. Okay, now we move on to the cation test. Okay, so in this chapter actually you have two types of tests, which is cation test, which is a test to know or to determine which positive ion is present in the salt, and also we have an anion test, which is we want to know what kind of negative ion in the salt. Alright, so we start with the cation first. So cation test, you need to use two types of a solution. Okay, the first one is your sodium hydroxide solution, and the second one is your ammonium solution. Okay, right, now look at the first solution, which is your sodium hydroxide. Okay, if you see here, okay, I did mention on the few drops and also in excess. Alright, so what does it mean by a few drop and what does it mean by in excess? Let's say you are given a sample. Okay, inside here you have your sample, which is I call as X. You don't know what salt is that. Okay, but this one must be a solution lah. Okay, this is the one that you want to test. Alright, so this is your test tube. Okay, now I have a NaOH solution. Okay, this is your NaOH solution. Right, first you gonna drop a few drops of NaOH solution into your sample. Okay, and if you see there is a white precipitate meaning you will have some solid present at the bottom part of your test tube. Okay, the possibility of the cation inside the solution might contains these 5 of cation, which is your calcium, magnesium, which could contain a calcium, magnesium, potassium, aluminum, and also zinc. Okay, alright. And then second step, you need to add NaOH solution in excess. What does it mean in excess? So just now you just add a few drops, right? So now you need to put your NaOH up into this part of your test tube in excess lah. Okay, so it could be like 2/3 of your of the volume of the test tube. Okay, and there will be two types of observation. Okay, there will be two types of observation, which is you can see that a white precipitate will remain or a white precipitate will dissolve. What does it mean by remain and what does it mean by dissolve? Okay, remain meaning that white precipitate is still there. Okay, when you put in excess, you have your test tube and you put in excess, your white precipitate just now when you add a few drops is still there. Okay, even you shake it, then it still remain at the bottom part of the test tube. Okay, that is remained. Another possibility is that your white precipitate will dissolve. Dissolve meaning it's gone. Okay, you add in excess the NaOH solution, and then you shake it, and you can see no more the white precipitate. Okay, so the possibilities is that when the white precipitate is remained, okay, it could be a calcium and magnesium ion. Okay, and if your white precipitate dissolve or gone, it could be your unknown solution contains potassium, aluminium, or zinc. Okay, alright, so I'm gonna continue with the ammonia solution in our next session.